emergent and current challenges of contemporary Muslim psychologists. First of all, welcome to all participants to this IIIT short course, Introduction to Human Sciences. Congratulations for you have come to the week 8. Right, week 8 of the session. So first of all, thank you so much for your for your involvement, for your commitment, right, to continue with these short courses. So I'm Jusmawati Fauzaman from the Department of Psychology, Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, IIUM. So this topic, emergent and current challenges of contemporary Muslim psychologists. And we have started this class with regards to the discipline of psychology by introducing an element that has been taken away from the discipline of psychology, which is soul. Right, so we have discussed a couple of things with regards to soul, how it really influences the living, or the living of a human being. So I hope we can bear in mind that there are still challenges that are faced by Muslim psychologists in order to really be able to deliver information about psychology from the most accurate point of view, right? Okay, so first of all, I just would like to recap. Right, I just would like to recap what we have learned so far. I think I presented on the contribution of early Muslim scholars like Ibn Sina and Al-Ghazali on the conception of soul. Right, so we have of Quranic psychology. With regards to the terminology, people are very much very much familiar with the terminology, like, for example, Islamic psychology. Whatever is the terminology, it is fine to be used, because perhaps the usage of Islamic psychology, for example, may be reflective of certain methodology that they are using, right? I use here the term of Quranic psychology. What I meant here by Quranic psychology is every single thing, all the information that are embedded in the context of ilmun nafs, right? The science of the soul. Science of the soul actually is a direct translation from ilmun nafs, from the Arabic term of ilmun nafs. The word ilm, we use the word translated into the English word there is a slight difference with regards to ilm, the Arabic term of ilm, which is knowledge. Okay, so it seems to be that the ilm is much wider than what is composed by the terminology of knowledge. Right, so if possible, I would love to use Assalamualaikum. I think her connection was problem. Let me check with her first.
Alhamdulillah. Doctor, you hear it? Doctor, you mute yourself. Unmute, please, Doctor. Okay. Sorry. Mm. Doctor, are ready?
Okay. All right. I cannot unmute myself. I'm so sorry. I was kicked out of the connection. I am so sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So can my slide be seen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Continue.
So what I was telling just now is in terms of the terminology. So regardless of the terminology, whether it is Islamic psychology or it is Quranic psychology, it is they are actually reflective the truth that is embedded with regards to ilmun nafs in the Quran. Okay. So I am just recapping what we have in okay, with regards to Quranic psychology. So we have to understand one particular issue, one particular point that it has deep roots in the Islamic intellectual tradition, right? So everything with regards to what we are delivering in terms of ilm nafs, it has a very deep root in terms of the Islamic intellectual tradition. Okay, and as evident as what being delivered earlier on, early Islamic scholars definitely explored the nature of soul, right? So this nature of soul, if we look into the historical narrative of how the soul has been ousted from the discipline of psychology, so I hope we bear in mind on that loophole that is in existence in the existing body of knowledge or discipline of psychology. So the early Muslim scholars explored the nature of the soul. All right, they also explored the nature of cognition. They examine or evaluate about behaviors, and they definitely talk about ethics or the value ladening all the conception of soul as well as the behavior. Right, they never push away values, all right, that comes in the form of ethics. All right, so everything in the ilm nafs is definitely heavily laden with value, and these are the so we can see in the Islamic Golden Age from the 8th to 14th century. So a lot of early Muslim scholars made significant contribution of to psychology. For example, I'm just refreshing Al-Farabi. He is the one to integrate the Islamic thought with Greek philosophy in understanding soul. So he practically is very much influenced with the Aristotle point of view as well as Neoplatonism. Okay, so he created a hierarchical model of faculties of the soul. All right, faculties of the soul. He theorized on 5 faculties of the soul: nutritive, external sensation, appetitive, imaginative. I miss one more. Appetitive, imaginative, and last one is the intellect or the rational faculty of the soul. All right. So he stresses on the role of intellect in achieving human perfection and understanding the divine. Right. So at all time, even a lot of Quranic verses stress on the point that at the end of the day, whatever it is that we do, our behavior has to be linked to the context of submitting ourselves to the first existence, as used by the term used by Al Farabi, the first existence, referring to Allah. All right, so at the end of the day, whatever it is that we behave, however that we behave, it has to be aligned with or aligned with to the subscription or submission of ourselves towards God as our creator. All right, so in a way, that is the soul's ultimate purpose. All right, achieving human perfection and understanding the divine. All right, by the term understanding the divine, it means that we definitely have to fully subscribe ourselves and submit ourselves to the creator, which to Allah. All right, so Al-Farabi's conception of soul somehow linked together metaphysic element and psychology. So this is another part that is missing in the existing discipline of psychology, that metaphysical aspects. All right, we cannot oust the point or the fact that there are lots of aspects of metaphysicals in a human's life, but that aspects of metaphysical has been ousted away of from the discipline of psychology. All right, so when he bridges the conception of soul, his conception of soul bridge the metaphysical aspects as well as psychology. So that becomes a very great framework to understand the real nature of human being. All right, and from the very beginning in the first lecture, for example, man is being described. I deliver the information that man is being described, or the very nature of man is consisting of two: the material aspects and the immaterial aspects. So the immaterial aspect is what lacking in the in the existing context of psychology. Okay, so that is Al-Farabi. As for Al-Ghazali in his book Ihya Ulumuddin, right, so he offers a comprehensive psychological and ethical framework based on Islam. So the concept of self again is being explored. All right, so the word nafs, sometimes the translated terminology used to represent nafs is self or psyche. All right, so Al-Ghazali mentioned about nafs, qalb, ruh, aqal. All right, and he linked it to the level of purification of the soul, tazkiyatun nafs. Okay, as for Ibn Sina in his book, The Book of Healing and the Canon of Medicine, the understanding of soul has been integrated with the context of philosophy, psychology, as well as Islamic thought. All right, so Ibn Sina identified soul or nafs as a distinct immaterial substance that governs the body while remaining independent of it. All right, so meaning that the soul remains independent of the body, and the soul has the faculty or the power or the energy to govern the whole material body. Okay, in detail, Ibn Sina mentioned about vegetative soul, animal soul, and rational soul. Right, so when it comes to rational soul, it's very unique only to human being. Right, it's unique to human being and capable of attaining the divine knowledge. All right, in here, if we really look into the details of the discussion forwarded by either Al-Farabi, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Sina, and the other early Muslim scholars, most of them describe the soul, its faculty in terms of a hierarchical model. All right, so these are another aspects that may be pondered upon or may be dwelt in by others who are very much interested in it. Okay, so these are with regards to Ibn Sina, for example, he further explored the processes of sensation, all right, the processes of perception, sensation, imagination, as well as reasoning. And he always emphasized the role of soul or the potential of soul for spiritual ascent as well as immortality. So that is the nature or description of soul by Ibn Sina. And then with regards to soul's potential for spiritual ascent. So this is also evident in Al-Farabi, right? Also evident in Al-Farabi, whereby he mentioned about the ascending soul, right? He mentioned about the ascending soul. So this is practically the nature of the soul as being described by three of the early Muslim scholars, right? For those participants who are very much interested, perhaps you can start with Al-Farabi, somehow learn more, because it's very great. You know, the contribution of Al-Farabi is very great. There are lots of books that can be referred to. For example, a translation of his original book of Al-Mabadi Ahlul Madinah Al-Fadila, all right, the virtual city. There is a translation from Arabic into English by Richard Walzer, right, Richard Walzer, and then that can be referred to a very great book that can help us, for those who are unable to read to understand Arabic, to use Arabic. That is there is a translation from the original source. Okay, so another another early Muslim scholars that contribute to the context of soul is Ibn al-Haytham. All right, Ibn al-Haytham. So he practically pioneered the work in optics and vision, but he also contributed to the understanding of the soul, especially because he focused on sensory organs, which is optic and as well as vision. So he also contributed to the understanding of soul, particularly through the exploration of perception and cognition. Right? Okay, so we have early Muslim scholars who ventured into this context of perception, sensation processes, perception processes, cognitive processes. All right, so soul, according to Ibn Haytham, is intimately linked to the sensory experience and intellect, emphasizing the role of external senses in acquiring knowledge, especially the vision, because he practically focused on optic as well as vision. All right, so he talked about not only of the capability of the external sensory organs, which is the eye, all right, to absorb information and give us vision, but also the vision, the physical vision, somehow is being related to the context of acquiring knowledge. All right, acquiring knowledge. Okay, so at the end of the day, it fits into the conception of all these early Muslim scholars with regards to the context of ascending soul. At all time, we will strive ourselves towards the highest level that we can go, so that we are very, very close to our Creator or Allah. Okay. So this is more in terms of the contribution of Al-Haytham. He distinguished between sensation and perception. He argued on the point that while senses detect the physical stimuli, the rational soul. So we talk about the physical sensory organs, which is the eye. While senses detect physical stimuli, the rational soul processes and interprets this information to form understanding. So that is actually the link that he made between the metaphysical aspects of human souls with the physical aspects of the sensation. Okay, so he laid the groundwork for a scientific approach to studying the interaction between the soul, the body, as well as the external world. Right, so here it bridges the philosophical aspects as well as the empirical inquiry. So when he subscribed himself to the study of external sensory organs somehow, but then he linked it into the context of soul by linking the by stating that the rational soul somehow is practically processing the information, consolidate it so that it becomes it forms some kind of understanding based on the external sensory information. Okay, so these are just example. Right, so these are just example of the early Muslim scholars' contribution to the psychology, right, to the context of ilm al-nafs. So there are many early Muslim scholars that contribute similarly to the realm of psychology. So in psychology, we do learn about cognition, we do learn about sensation, perception, right? So there are early Muslim psychologists that also contributed to the same realm. Okay. Okay, so perhaps we can see or we can take a look at the context of existing psychology and sort of like coin or sort of like look into the revival of Quranic psychology in the modern era. All right. So just giving out certain just giving out another alternative perspective. When I say alternative perspective, not to say that Quranic psychology is actually the last is actually it should be actually what I'm trying to say. It should be the perspective being referred to. Okay, so I think this is what's happening as of now. Revival of Quranic psychology in the modern era. Understandably, many of the third world countries being colonized. So with colonialism and the global spread of Western knowledge system. All right. So in psychology, for example, all our textbooks are either from United States of America. So we can say that it is actually depictive of American psychology. All right, American psychology. Bear in mind, this is my standpoint. All right, my sort of my perspective looking into what's happening around. All right, so with colonialism and the global spread of Western knowledge system, no doubt, right, we cannot deter the fact that psychology has been delivered in only one particular perspective, right? The Western paradigm. And it seems to be that the gist of the Western paradigm emphasizes the materialism and empiricism. I'm not saying that we cannot express on materialism or empiricism, but there are certain aspects that we have to sort of like tone down and look into other perspective that perhaps can give us a better or a greater understanding or more comprehensive understanding of who man is. Okay, so the reality is the fact that the colonialism happened in so many countries and Muslim countries Muslim countries especially, and that the widespread of the Western knowledge system. And at the end of the day, we can say the approach that is being used to deliver psychology, the understanding of human being, is very much Americanized or very much Westernized. So that is the situation that is happening. But then we see this kind of revivalism. The past few decades have seen a revival in Quranic psychology, driven by a desire among Muslim psychologists, perhaps to, so these are the context, to reclaim Islamic intellectual heritage. So there are lots of work that had been done with regards to looking into the Quran, all right, in terms of understanding human being. Okay, so this is perhaps one of the effort, reclaiming Islamic intellectual heritage. So scholars have revisited early Islamic work to reconstruct psychological principles, psychological frameworks that are aligned with the Islamic principle. That is the most important aspects, right? The most important aspect that has to be taken into consideration, right? That has to be taken into consideration. Reconstructing psychological framework that align with Islamic principles. And we also can see another journey being taken, rejuvenating soul into the study of psychology. All right, so many Muslim psychologists argue that Western psychologists' materialist orientation neglects soul. All right, and we admit to the point that we stand forth upholding the point that it is an essential. Looking into soul, getting to understand soul is an essential dimension of human existence in Islam. And I think it's okay for us to admit, or it's okay actually to regard the Islamic principles as applicable to everyone, because Islam is Quran is being delivered to all mankind. The information in the Quran fits, universally fits all mankind. All right. Okay, so rejuvenating soul into the psychology, and Alhamdulillah, the Department of Psychology in IIUM has taken the steps introducing a course that caters to the early Muslim scholars' contribution to the conception of soul. All right, so we use the terminology of science of the soul. All right, and then it seems to be that more Muslim psychologists are addressing culturally relevant issues, recognizing that the Western models, perhaps with its materialism nature, as well as the fact that it does not deal with the conception of soul, right? It may not fully address the psychological context or needs of the Muslims. So researchers as well as practitioners alike, they are working on developing frameworks, newer frameworks and newer form of interventions that are aligned or that can address the needs of the Muslim cultural context. Okay, so this is what's happening, and I hope this can continue. This effort can be continued because there are so many more to be explored. All right, so many more to be explored. Okay, and then the question of what should be done. All right, what should be done? I just put up this poem from Rumi. The title is Ascending Soul, and the terminology of ascending soul is not a is somewhat a well-known terminology. All right, it's a well-known terminology. It's describing one of the nature of soul, right? And we have the capacity, the soul has the capacity to ascend, right? The ascending soul somehow. So perhaps we can just like read, and later all participants can draft through in this poem somehow and take the gist of it and try to understand why the context of ascending soul has been stated by a couple of early Muslim scholars, for example, a lot of them actually, all right, a lot of them. So Rumi wrote it in this way: I died as mineral and became a plant. I died as plant and rose to animal. I died as animal and I was man. Why should I fear when I was blessed by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul, I shall become what no mind ever conceived. Oh, let me not exist, for non-existent, to him we shall return. Right, the word non-existent, when I searched through, right, the word non-existent actually is representing the word fana. Okay, so I hope participants later can delve into this poem and try to understand another context that we should embrace the ascending soul. Okay, now this is and I've seen the trend actually. Muslim psychologists should now work too. There are so many things to be done, but this is some of them. All right, the first one is establish Islamic framework for mental health that include the concept of nafs, qalb, ruh, and aqal. All right, so incorporating both cognitive and immaterial dimensions of the self. All right, so at the very beginning, I mentioned to you in the first lecture, each of these faculty, nafs, qalb, ruh, and aqal, they are spiritual in nature, but they also have the power to influence the material running of a human being. Okay, so that is the first one. And the second one, what Muslim psychologists should now work to is develop therapeutic approaches rooted in Islamic spirituality. Is already in existence the concept of tazkiyatun nafs, all right, purification of the soul. But then it is advisable for us to keep on mentioning or keep on referring to this paradigm, all right, to this paradigm, so that it can be embedded in all of the new paradigm that we develop, or a new interventive module that we develop. Okay, and the fact that perhaps we can go up to the point of tasawwuf, all right, Sufism, right? It has its value, okay, in really understanding who man is. Okay, next, explore the positive Quranic psychology, focusing on virtues like patience, gratitude, and reliance to God. This is another thing. Perhaps I can use a different context or a different terminology encompassing this effort. What I see here is the conceptualization of psychological construct from the Quranic perspective. Right? Sometimes we have to have the guts to be void of all the Western perspective that we have been influenced by or introduced to, all right, and look at Quran from fresh perspective, right? Disregard whatever Piaget say with regards to the cognitive development, all right. Yeah, why not? Because we want to look into what Quran has to offer, right? What Quran has to offer. So the operation or the materialization of conceptualizing psychological construct from the Quranic perspective, all right? Another effort. Yeah, you can run, you can open up certain surah, for example, Surah to Yusuf, Surah Al-Mu'minun, for example, just to understand about man's personality, all right, man's personality, and at the end of the day, perhaps you will find you are able to make comparison, like personality from the Western perspective. There is neutral. Is neutral. If you are a narcissist, therefore you are a narcissist. But from the Islamic perspective, personality seems to have a direction. There is a positive direction, there is a negative direction. So it is advisable for people, for the Muslim, to reduce the negative aspects of their personality and strive more and try to build up a more positive element of personality. That is the direction. So that is just one basic difference with regards to Western perspective on personality, as well as the Islamic point of view on personality. Okay. All right. So establishing Islamic framework for mental health that incorporate the context of nafs, ruh, qalb, and aql. All right. Bridging the material aspects of man and the immaterial aspects of man. Newer therapeutic approaches rooted in Islamic principles, and definitely further exploration in conceptualizing psychological construct from the Islamic Quranic point of view, right? Quranic point of view. Even happiness, actually, we can see the difference in terms of happiness. And I think Dr. Rohaya last class in social psychology defined or deliberate on the conception of happiness from the Islamic point of view. And we can see a stark difference, right, between the conception of happiness, which is very much materialistic in nature from the Western perspective, as opposed to what we have, all right, as opposed to what Islam has to offer, what the Quran has to offer. Okay, so I just want to delve into, I'm left with only 10 minutes. I just want to delve into this one particular major issue. To me, it is a major issue. But before we get into that, current challenges faced by contemporary Muslim psychologists, again, another Rumi saying, who am I? Just my name, the rest is him. All right? Who am I? Just my name, the rest is him. Okay, that shows that we are nothing except for the name that has been given to us by our parents. The rest of us is actually him, all right? It's a very deep context that I hope all participants can sort of like ponder, contemplate, and try to understand how close we should be to our Creator. Okay, now, I can say that the core challenge that is faced by many Muslim psychologists is the methodological challenges. I am quoting what's written by our rector, newly appointed rector, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar. So this is what he wrote with regards to the context of Islamizing psychology or reviving Islamic psychology. This is what he wrote. Modern psychology, however, is still trapped in methodological crisis because of its obsession in emulating the physical science, right? The discipline of knowledge that is being delivered to you now is human sciences, right? So we use the word human and we use the word science. So science here is reflective of the physical science. So embedded even in human sciences are all the methodological that clearly originated from the physical sciences. Okay. In physical sciences, the object of study is different from the object of study in social sciences or human sciences. But like it or not, similar methodology is being used. And logically, there must be a loopholes somewhere using methodology that fits the physical sciences, using it to study a human being, right? Using it to study human being. So this is what stated by our rector, Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Bakar. Modern psychology, however, is still trapped in a methodological crisis because of its obsession in emulating the physical sciences. Okay, now, so we have to look into the context of what methodology is somehow restricting our full understanding of human being, incorporating both the material and immaterial aspects of human being. All right, so this is the core challenge. We don't have to go anywhere else. So look into the methodology. Okay, now, methodology crisis. So the critique of psychology from an Islamic perspective often revolves around the use of a purely scientific paradigm. Okay, for you to ponder, what else apart from scientific paradigm? Is there any other paradigm that can be used to search for knowledge? Yes. All right. Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. Science is not the only paradigm. Science is not the only paradigm. Science has its own loopholes. All right. It is reductionist in nature, for example. All right. So that's why from the perspective, scientificism, we have positivism, we have phenomenological. Okay, that's why people sometimes shift to embark on qualitative approaches to research rather than just depending upon quantitative approach to research, right? Because of what qualitative approach to research somehow can get into deeper understanding of who man is, for example. Just an example. I'm not saying that it's it in definitive tone. Okay, science. This is actually a claim. This is actually a claim. Science cannot know who man is, only what man does. Why it is as such? Because as of now, scientific paradigm, as we all know the existence of contemporary psychology based on the scientific paradigm, they do not consider the aspects of soul. All right, do not consider the aspects of soul. So when they do not consider the aspects of soul, so at the end of the day, they cannot know who man is. What they can know is what man does, right? So that's why the definition of psychology at the end of the day becomes the scientific study of mental processes and human behavior, right? Human behavior meaning what man does. Okay, so at the end of the day, the core, the true nature of man that encompass the aspects, the immaterial aspects, cannot be dwelt with. All right, cannot be dwelt with. Okay, so this is further deliberation. I have 4 more minutes. Okay, further deliberation. So science somehow limit the understanding of human nature and the soul as it exclude metaphysical and spiritual dimensions, which are central to the Islamic thought. Okay, it separates knower and known. Okay, I'll give you one diagram after this so that they know. Knower, who are we? We are knower, All right, we are knower. We wanted to get to know about things. We want to get to know about who we are as a human being. Okay, so there is an issue, like you can just like write this, Google this, subject object separation. So in science, somehow subject object separation, so they are separate, but in Islam somehow the knower, the knowledge itself is in the knower. All right, the knowledge itself is in the knower. They are together, unification of subject object paradigm. Okay, so here I'll just pass you this. All right, I will delve into the Quranic verse of chapter 3, verse 18. All right, chapter 3, verse 18, to help contextualize this critique. So first of all, I would like to give you this diagram. All right, we are here, the knower. We are here, the knower. What should we do? Get to know. Right? We want to know. We want to know. So, knower will be involved in the act of knowing, and then he will be known, and this is what is known as knowledge. All right, known as knowledge. Okay, so the issue here is the methodology. All right, methodology. How do we get to know things? We use certain methods in order to extract data, in order to obtain data, and that methodology somehow has a lot of default. All right, has a lot of defect, right? Has a lot of defect. Okay, us depending solely on scientific paradigm is a defect in itself. All right, is a defect in itself, because this methodology has their own shortcomings or lackings. Okay, so what does it take for us to become a knower? All right, what does it take for us to become a knower? Okay, this is actually a stage. All right, this is actually a stage. This is the lower stage. From knower, we have to be observer. From observer, we have to be perceiver, gazer, lover, and witness. Chapter 3, verse 18 is talking about being witness. All right, being witness. Okay, let's look into chapter 3, verse 18. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Syahidallahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa wal malaikatu wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist. La ilaha illa huwal azizul hakim. So this is the translation. Allah witnesses that there is no deity except Him, and so do the angels and those of knowledge that He is maintaining creation in justice. There is no deity except Him that exalted in might the wise. Okay, so this verse emphasizes the role of divine knowledge or ilm as the ultimate and absolute truth. How do we get ourselves from knower up to being witness? All right, those elements has to be incorporated in us, then only, all right, what we delivered actually is reflective of those elements that are in us. Okay, it highlights that true knowledge is rooted in acknowledgement of Allah's oneness and His justice. And applying this to psychology, an Islamic perspective suggests that human understanding, including empirical inquiry, must align with divine principles. Using purely empirical methods may neglect the deeper spiritual truths that are central to human existence and psychological being. All right, therefore, a new holistic paradigm should be designed to embody divine wisdom and revelation. All right, so I can't deliberate more of this. All right, I can't deliberate more of this because I'm short of time, but I would like to encourage all participants to look into and try to further understand the gist of the 318. All right, the gist of the 318, to understand this diagram. All right, to understand this diagram. So just remember, the point that I need you to remember is this. the separation between knower and known. All right, the separation between knower and known. So this is knower, this is known. This separation happens because of what? Methodology. All right, because of what? Methodology. What we are reverting ourselves to use as of now is the scientific paradigm. All right, scientific paradigm, practically they will be looking into most of the time the material aspects. All right, the material aspects. Soul as a metaphysical entity somehow will not be considered in a sense. Okay, all right, so this is the level that we should ask ourselves, where do we want to be? Right, we should be here. All right, the chapter 3 verse 18, all right, is asking us to be at this particular level. But we should see here: knower, observer, perceiver, gazer, lover, witness. All right, gazer. If you want to know more about gazer, somehow look into this surah whereby the Prophet Musa asked that if he can see Allah, right? If he can see Allah with the word Nazir, right? With the word Nazir. So that is the level of gazer, all right? And read the ayah so that we can understand the very gist that help us to understand that if we were to deliver certain information, and we have to understand as well, information somehow is also within ourselves. How we understand a concept and how we deliver our understanding towards that concept. My understanding may be different from your understanding. I am delivering the information that I am delivering to you now based on my understanding. All right, based on my understanding, based on the experiences or the information that has been exposed to me. Okay, so that's why I and the information is unified. Then only I can deliver the truest of what I understand towards my audience. All right, you may understand whatever that I give you here in a different point of view. All right, but these are all our struggle. All right, these are all our struggle. Okay, last point.
Doctor,
Yeah.
we have passed the time and
Okay.
inshallah.
Okay. So that's it. So I'll pass the PowerPoint presentation to Sister Jaria. All right. So that's it. Thank you so much for lending me your ears. All right. I hope whatever that I delivered today can be of certain benefit to all of you. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi